The arguments from beauty for the existence of God. That's right, we're not discussing an argument, but 5 different ways beauty can be used to argue that God exists. Jumping into things, the first argument goes like this.
Look at the trees, man. There must be a God.
Now, this isn't really an argument in the traditional sense because, well, it doesn't have premises that we can argue about. It's really just mysterious and mystical. Nonetheless, many find this to be quite persuasive, myself included. But I personally prefer non-mysterious arguments that can be analyzed logically, so let's move on to some of those. The second argument is based on the nature of beauty itself. Many incredibly varied things have the mysterious property of beauty. Plants, abstract objects, or the character of individuals just scratches the surface of the diversity of beauty. Now, to have a good argument, we need to get from these things have the property of beauty to God exists. We could do this by mirroring the structure of the moral argument, which goes from things have the property of being moral to God exists. William Lane Craig's formulation of the moral argument goes like this. If God does not exist, then objective moral values do not exist, but objective moral values do exist, therefore God exists. Now, I've explained elsewhere that I'm not a huge fan of that formulation, and instead prefer constructing the moral argument thusly. We can now repurpose this and get a pretty good argument from beauty. This argument, put simply, is saying that if there is such a thing as beauty, which is a real feature of reality, then this cries out for some sort of deeper or more fundamental explanation. But if we try to imagine any theory of this deeper explanation, it always seems to work better with the existence of God. You could ground beauty in the nature of God, or the will of God, or in the properties of natures instantiated by God. And since the existence of God works so well with providing an explanation for the nature of beauty, then God probably exists. Now, the premise I expect to get the most attack would be premise 2. The skeptic could maintain that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Now, you can indeed maintain that, but you need to recognize that this actually relatively modern notion goes against all our intuitions. Sure, our tastes and ability to recognize beauty do vary from individual to individual, but nothing has any beauty in it? That seems quite hard to swallow. The third argument is based on our sense of beauty. Let's ask, why do humans perceive that beauty exists? Now, a naturalistic answer would be that our sense of beauty is a product of evolution, geared towards promoting our survival. Things like good food or healthy partners should be attractive to us, so we find them beautiful. Now, this answer has problems. Many dangerous things are beautiful, like scenic cliffs or dangerous animals are beautiful. And things like beautiful abstract objects seem useless as far as evolution is concerned. But all that aside, the more important point is that God also wants humans to survive. So any non-theistic explanations of why humans perceive beauty would also be a theistic explanation for why God would allow beauty. But on top of that, theists can also add theological reasons, such as the goodness of beauty, or how beauty draws people to God. So theism will necessarily be better at explaining why humans perceive the existence of beauty. The fourth argument is almost a combination of the previous two, the knowledge of beauty. There is objective beauty in the things around us, and we have beliefs that these things are beautiful. But how does the beauty present in these objects actually inform our beliefs? The beauty itself of the object cannot be detected by any physical measurements, so our sense of beauty is sensing something purely undetectable. But for us to truly know that there is beauty in things, the beauty and our belief in the beautiful need to somehow be connected. How do we explain this? Well, evolution is a purely physical process, so it can't really help explain why we perceive something physically undetectable. Besides, evolution would gladly make us perceive ugly things as beautiful if that promoted our survival. On the other hand, God would have no problem knowing what is beautiful, given his omniscience, and as the designer of our cognitive faculties, could make us in such a way that our perceptions of beauty generally matched up with what is actually beautiful. The fifth argument is based on the sheer beauty of our world. From hot deserts to cold Arctics, from giant galaxies to microscopic structures, our world is filled with beauty. Now, theism makes perfect sense of this. God, being maximally great, would want a beauty-filled world. Absent a God, one would have little to no reason to predict the sheer amount of beauty around us. Therefore, the beauty in the world is evidence for God. Now, this raises a question. What about the problem of ugliness? Shouldn't a God want to eradicate all ugliness? But we do find ugliness. Therefore, there isn't a God. Now, the problem with this argument is that there's an asymmetry to the use of beauty and ugliness. Sometimes individual pieces of ugliness are used in an artwork to create an overall more beautiful piece of art. If God designed the whole universe to work together to bring about great beauty, then it's completely consistent that certain sections of it would be ugly. So from our limited reference frame, everything we see is still very consistent with our universes being a product of a maximally great artist. Before ending, I want to note an argument pushed by Alvin Plantinga to that effect. Plantinga argues that possible worlds where God becomes incarnate and atones for his creatures are very good worlds, maybe even good enough to justify the evil of the fall, which is a necessary condition for this good. Roughly the same argument could be offered as a possible explanation to the ugliness in the world. The overall narrative of our entire universe is immensely beautiful, precisely because it includes the ugliness introduced by the fall. So, those are 5 ways beauty can lead to God. That's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoy this content.